welcome back to Affirm a Day with Helen Chen. So today I decided to do a fun one because yesterday was so tough with the gravity screenshot. So today we're doing something from Blade Runner, the new one. The reason I chose this one is because I just like how vibrant everything is, and getting some colored lights in there to give us some fun interest and not be so subtle. So we don't have to hopefully fight as hard. And I just really love all of the figures here receiving different types of light. There's the warm light behind the three figures on the left, and then there's this cool kind of exterior light that's been that's like pretty complimentary and beautiful. Obviously, we couldn't do a film study, work out without visiting one of the Blade Runners or both. Just because it is kind of like a universally acclaimed visual kind of spectacle type of movie. And this is no different. The first Blade Runner really was kind of ahead of its time. Some of the things that they decided to do there, we still kind of associate with like really futuristic kind of settings, like and the idea of like this Neo Tokyo kind of a thing really kind of started from there. So, and we see it a lot now, like, we see it from Firefly, like just this kind of, that kind of aesthetic is just very popular now, and it was kind of popularized by that film in the Western media anyway. So, couldn't have done this workshop or workout without at least one of these, and I chose this one also because it kind of has that quality to it. Like when we think Blade Runner, we think of these like colored lights and this atmosphere and just weird stuff like translucent materials like in the umbrellas and things like that. So I just really wanted to paint this one, and plus it seemed like it would be fun to do. I wanted to right away kind of tackle just all of the three major colors that are present in the background. You have that kind of like cyany blue, aquamarine kind of a panel. You have the warm lit yellow in the left, and then this middle kind of that's in between. Like you can tell it's kind of a warm color, local color, but it's just influenced by this blue light. So nailing those three parts of this image are going to be really crucial for the characters to kind of be on top of, And I'm probably gonna have to like, it's also that middle color is just so tough to get a handle on exactly. So I'm gonna get it like, I don't know, 80% there, and then like always kind of readjust if I need to once I have more stuff laid in. This first character that we're gonna tackle here is the strongest one. She's a little bit of the focal point. She's the one here who's like driving the action, so our attention is on her. And the way they do this is really cool. Like she's got this like a black costume where only her face is revealed, but also these glasses, and it just really kind of stands out. And so her face is lit by this warm light on the left, and so it's like even the clothing around her, the hood, everything has become like a frame for this character's face. So our attention goes right there, even though there is a lot of contrast in the figures on the left. We've talked a little bit about grouping figures and making sure that our eye goes to the correct figure that we want in film, and this is a great example of that because because also, like we mentioned before, or I mentioned before, the characters on the left, even though there is a lot of contrast because they're dark over light there, they are kind of all grouped together as one group, and so they individually each become less important. And then this main character kind of in the middle here is not overlapping any character. She's kind of straight in the middle. And so we get the sense that she's the most important character in this scene, in this shot. I want to just kind of get the background stuff out of the way. This is one of those moments because it is in the background and it's really hazy. I'm not gonna try and get too fancy with it. I'm just gonna try and straight ahead paint as much of it as I can, and then maybe on top do a little bit of the lighting blown out kind of a deal. But I want to do the figure there first, so I can go a little bit more detailed on that, and then lose some of the detail with some of the atmospheric lighting that I'm going to play on top of it. Just so we get everything laid out, I can then kind of focus on the middle figure and getting the ones on the left laid out, because I'm kind of treating this character like a background character. Working on this though, I'm realizing there's a lot more subtle color in this character than I once initially kind of expected. You can kind of see that there's like this kind of a dual like red and blue tones going on in it, and some of it is because of just how the lighting is, and some of it is just because you can tell there was some kind of like color processing on top of this shot that wasn't like maybe it wasn't all captured like all at once on that day. Like it looks like it really does feel like there's been some like adjustment, or I wouldn't be surprised if there was some color stuff going on here after the fact. But that is all to say, it is a lot more subtle, and the variation is a little bit like unexpected. So I'm struggling with this character a little bit, but once we have that, I feel like this is like the hardest part of the whole frame. Everything else is a little bit more straightforward and easy. Of course, it wouldn't be Blade Runner if they didn't have an umbrella with a lit up main pole thing. So that's fun. But it's like, it's just little touches like this where it's just like, it's just an umbrella, but then this one touch, all of a sudden, it's like sci fi. So it's just, I love details like that, though. I love it when these movies deal with props in such a specific world building kind of way. It really adds to it. Another example of this, which is my favorite that I mention all the time to people just because I love it, is in Mad Max. There's one shot where this guy is looking down a gun through the scope, and the scope is actually just the Mercedes-Benz like logo. It's like a hood ornament that they've turned into the scope, and it's just really fun, and it just says a lot about that world. So it's kind of cheesy in this case because of the lit up pinkness of it, but it's really fun, and it also just lends so much to the world building here. One of my least favorite things in the world to draw or paint or do anything with is vehicles. So I'm gonna treat this guy like the most vague looking vehicle ever, especially considering that it looks like it's a vehicle that's like yellow or orange, much like that wall is sitting amid all of this blue light. And so the color there is very hard to kind of discern. So I'm using, of course, some lighting effects, lighting, things like that to get that feeling of, you know, a yellow truck that's being influenced by all of this blue atmospheric light and rain and stuff like that. So now I'm going to be dealing with the transparent umbrellas. And the way I like to do this is actually just literally treat it like that. So I'm going to choose what I feel like is a color that is going to represent well after the opacity is turned down. So I'm going to choose something like a lighter color of what I feel like the umbrella color would be. And then I'm gonna, like turn down the opacity so you can see through it and it's transparent, and then play with it from there. And sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it works like shockingly well. All right, now this figure is basically mostly there. And I mean, there's some stuff here that I can probably noodle on, but it's such an unimportant character that after I get just a couple hits of light on this bag, I'm just going to move on, especially to the character in the middle. I'm still trying to decide how much information I want to put into their face. Um, Probably at least the goggles, but maybe not any of the specific structure around the face or the nose. Wherever I'm able to kind of like use the shift key to get those straight lines, I do. I'm just so used to it now, I can't live without it. Even when I'm doing the sketches, I'm sure you guys have noticed, like all of the sketches I provide before we go into this, there's always a lot of like straight lines and stuff because I'm always holding down the shift key. It's just how I work now. Like it's so crazy. I actually don't know that I can live without it. A lot of people ask me my thoughts on working in other programs and things like that. And you know, there's plenty to criticize about Photoshop, but the truth is I will never do anything like professionally without Photoshop, just because I've worked with it for so long. I know all of the tips and tricks. I even know how the program mixes colors when it comes to certain brushes, and I just can't. I can't live without it. Like I can use other programs, but with the flexibility that Photoshop specifically affords me, it's the only one that I see myself using for stuff like work. So on this bigger umbrella here, I'm actually taking more of a painter approach, like how you would approach it if you were like a real oil painter or something like that, and trying to paint in the colors. But I still am kind of trying to do myself a favor and let you know what Photoshop affords me the opportunity to do, put in a color pretty bright, turn down the opacity or paint out of it to get the right color from that. So that's just another example of how, I mean, I love that there's other options out there. I've never tried like Clip Studio Paint or anything like that. But for me, just with my workflow and just how I kind of paint now, there's just really no other program for me to handle it besides Photoshop. Now I'm going to start laying in all of the figures on the left. Once again, I actually just love the different skin tones present here and how they react to light very differently from each other. And that's a good thing for anybody to learn, that it's like, again, it's not about what you think somebody should look like in your head. It's about really taking the time to observe what real light is doing to them and how their skin tone really reacts. For example, like different skin types also matter, not just even their tone, but just the skin itself. How reflective it is a thing. How matte it is. Like that all has to do with how skin tones look when we see them in different types of lighting scenarios. So I would really make sure that if nailing down specific types of skin tone is very important to you, for you to look at real life examples and take into account different lighting scenarios and how they represent. Which is why, like there has to be different approaches to lighting people of different skin tones, because in one lighting scenario they may look washed out, or in another one they might be overwhelmed, or the values don't work or anything like that. So I think it's a really valuable thing to pay attention to and to learn, and just always be mindful of, that there are different qualities of lighting that will change the look and the feel of somebody's skin tone. I think we got really lucky in this frame too that I chose. I thought about doing something from the original Blade Runner with the character that's wearing basically like a plastic transparent coat thing, and it just felt like a pain. Thankfully, all of the fabrics here, even though some are more reflective, and you can see some glints on that middle left character's costume of hints of blue and stuff, or glints of shinier material. We actually don't have that much material differences to worry about here. Like everything is pretty much matte, which is a blessing, because if everything was like those umbrellas, it would be such a pain to paint. If you couldn't tell, I'm having a much better painting day today than I was yesterday. I think partially it's because, just personal taste wise, I just really love, like I'm really interested in unique color combinations and like fun neon lighting and things like that. So I was just already in a better mood and place to start this painting. So yeah, so I feel like things are going a little bit better here. I'm finding myself not second guessing too much, and that's really important too. I mean, if I had to sit down and just like do stuff that I couldn't get excited about day in and day out, it like every painting would feel like a pain. So hopefully, you guys, when you are working on your own personal projects, if you're really not feeling a certain painting, but you just feel like, oh, you have to do it for your portfolio, or like you need it to tick off this specific box, I would just reevaluate your portfolio and see if like there's another painting that you are excited about to do that could take its place, or even just not have it at all. Because I definitely feel like when you're not excited about a painting and you're like fighting and suffering your way through it, it really shows. And it might be better altogether to just, focus on the paintings and the artwork that you're excited by. Like if you all of a sudden have like a strike of inspiration to do something, follow that feeling instead of feeling like you need to do a specific thing just to fulfill like an environment or whatever tick box in your portfolio. So this character's actual skin tone was the hardest for me to get just because it is so pale. So it's taking in some of that blue light and feeling almost greenish. And so, but then on the left side and the fill side, you get a little bit of that warmth from, the warm competing lighting here. So it's just getting that balance was a little bit tough. But I just like also the pop of the hair and her, very bright jacket that's thankfully a little bit toned down here because it's on the shadow side. Otherwise, it might be too bright for this frame. But again, I appreciate that she is, standing out in that way a little bit because at the end of the day, this is the character that's going to kind of like the attention is going to switch from the character in the middle to the character from the character in black in the middle to this red coat character. So now is the last step, which is like maybe shoring up a few of the details. I'm not going to bother too much of what's written in the sign. It's basically there. But I'm going to add just a little bit of atmosphere to obscure the character in the back just a little bit more. And then we're going to call it a day. So thank you guys so much for painting with me today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.